Welcome back, everybody. It is August 29th, 2019. That is a Thursday, 7:32 p.m. Welcome back. I'm so glad to be back. We will get into why I have not been around for a couple days. No big deal. Everything's okay. And I'm so sorry that I had to take this long to even get videos out, guys. It just, sometimes things just happen, but here we are and we have a lot to talk about. So, right now, we're going to go over some basic facts that we know right off the bat as of now, what's going on, and then we're going to get into what we could be seeing in the next 4 days. And now we got to keep in mind, rule of thumb, anything outside of 5 days is something you don't really want to get into, but we are within that 5 day period. So the tracks, the spaghetti plots, the prediction or the assumption that this may be a major hurricane as far as a category 4 possibly is getting more and more real every hour that goes by. They currently have the recon planes shooting through there getting us more data, but as far as the 5 o'clock p.m. update, here we go. 330 miles east of the southeast Bahamas right now is where Hurricane Dorian sits, and it is strengthening. There is no doubt about that. This will become a major hurricane. In my opinion, will at least hit Category 3. Category 4 is certainly possible, but you know me. I'm not going to come out here and start scaring people and putting out info that I don't know yet or have not verified myself. So, Dorian is expected to become a major hurricane Friday. That would be tomorrow. And remember, yesterday was when the governor declared state of emergency for the state of Florida, and for good reason. If this thing does remain the way it is shown, the wind field alone as a Category 4 would be about a 200-mile radius. And really quick, I brought up radar scope just to show you what a 200-mile radius would look like. Now compare that to the state of Florida itself. Basically, if this hurricane hits Florida, in central Florida at least, you could be seeing tropical force winds in the entire state, even on the opposite side of the hurricane. And we've had this issue in the past with Irma. We all thought Irma, well, not us, but most people thought Irma was going to come up right up the east coast of Florida, and that's why they moved everyone to the west, but then it clipped right underneath, hit Cuba, thank God, and then went up the west coast, minimalizing the damage, even though Naples took a strong hit there. But this is a different story, guys. This thing is looking like it's going to go over the Bahamas, or at least through the northern area of the Bahamas and into central Florida. That is due to a high pressure system that we have seen before that is slowly blanketing down and is going to pancake this storm, which is going to be the reason why it's flowing upwards and then kind of hooks straight into the east side of Florida. So I just wanted to show you what a 200-mile radius wind field might look like, and you can clearly see it's the size of Florida. So there's no escaping this if this thing hits central Florida. Biggest deals are going to be storm surge. We're going to have high winds, but the main reason for state of emergency or evacuations is water and storm surge. That is the biggest thing for coastal areas. And as of right now, they believe this storm will hit between Port St. Lucie and West Palm Beach. West Palm Beach being a little bit south than Port St. Lucie. But again, we will look at that on a chart, and we will talk about that as well. Now, this information right here is key. Now, once this thing becomes a major hurricane Friday, as expected, they expect it to actually remain an extremely dangerous hurricane throughout the weekend. And we all know Labor Day is on September 2nd this year. That is that Monday. Right now, as we speak, maximum sustained winds are near 85 miles per hour with gusts over 100. So this is a very strong storm as is right now. It did a little bit of a number on Puerto Rico, not as bad as we thought, which is a great thing. They are still recovering from 2 years ago with Hurricane Irma. We all know that. Hurricane force winds extend upwards to 15 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward about 90 miles an hour. That is right now. Now, when we get to Florida, that will be a different story. So I'm reading you just the 5 o'clock update right now. Dorian is moving in a northwest direction near 13 miles per hour. It's in between a fast and semi-slow moving storm. We had Hurricane Nate, which moved at about 27 miles per hour right through the heart of the Gulf here 2 years ago. So we know what fast hurricanes can do, and we know what slow ones can do. And this one is outperforming. At first, there was really not much concern for this storm, and now all of a sudden there is very much concern. In fact, I speak with a man by the name of Craig Setzer. He's a very popular meteorologist in South Florida. Him and I talk often on Twitter, and we were going back and forth about this, whether or not this storm was going to exceed itself or expectations. And not 24 hours later did the thing basically double in size as him and I were talking while this was still a tropical storm. The center of Hurricane Dorian will make landfall along the coastal sections of the southeastern United States late Sunday as a major hurricane. Now, that late Sunday guess could vary a little bit because we still are a good 4 days out. We're pressing that 5-day mark, and outside 5 days, it's very hard. That's why you see the cone. Once we get to the Bahamas, you see the cone is kind of thinner here, and then all of a sudden, woof, it widens out there. That's because that's where we're hitting that 4 into 5 day area, and they put that cone of uncertainty all over Florida because they do not want to make the same mistake they made last year and the year before. One with Michael in not understanding that it was a Category 5 storm at the time of landfall, and the year previous to that with Irma coming up the exact opposite coast of Florida as expected after moving the entire population to that side. So we're learning from our mistakes, but that's not changing the fact that we are going to be dealing with a possible Category 4 hurricane. Okay? Current tracks for this hurricane right now are showing where Dorian is. As I said, 85 miles per hour right now with gusts reaching over 100 miles an hour. We are close enough to lands where these airplanes can get out there, get good observations, get back to land safely, refuel, and this is when we're going to start getting our updates more and more. When you get a hurricane or the potential for a major hurricane that is going to threaten the United States, the closer it gets to land, it makes it a lot easier for our airplanes to get there. We can't go out into the middle of the ocean and do these things simply because of gas, like things like that, like we've seen before in the past. But as of right now, these are the updated, most recent spaghetti plots we have. 90% of them have this going right over and hooking to that western direction, almost flattening out because of that high pressure system that is currently coming down from Canada. It's a timing thing, guys, and it comes down to basically the day of landfall. Things could be changing. So what I'm giving you now is the most updated info we have, and yes, it is showing that this storm is very likely to land at a Category 4. That is very fast wind speeds, guys. We're talking 135 miles per hour, and not even with the wind, even if it were a little bit lower, the storm surge alone could be upwards of 10 to 15 feet in between Port St. Lucie and West Palm Beach. Now, I'm saying that because that's what the data is showing now. This may track a little north. It may track a little south. You could see we have one spaghetti plot bringing this thing basically right through Miami and then back into the Gulf. And that is one fear that we have right now, is that this storm, and you'll see this on Ventus Sky over the next 3 days, how much distance this storm covers before it does get to Florida. And it's quite a significant amount of distance it travels, and it makes you wonder if that momentum is going to push it through Florida itself into the Gulf and then become a situation for the Panhandle and even maybe Mississippi and Alabama, or if this thing is going to hit Florida and then ride right up the center of it into Georgia and then partially southern South Carolina. So still a lot up to see here. But with that said, let's get to some of these charts and watch this thing in action. All right now we are looking at a version of Tropical Tidbits, a model run here, and you could see Hurricane Dorian down here, and you're going to see how it makes its way up towards the Bahamas and what the expected path is as of right now. And this path happens to take this storm after landfall. You're going to see the millibars drop to 950 right before landfall. Like, we're talking hours before this storm strikes the central area of Florida, or maybe the south central area of Florida. On the East Coast, this will be an East Coast storm. There's very little chance that this thing's going to go underneath Florida as was the initial thought. But now, because of the different pressures and the Bermuda Atlantic high pressure, and again, you could see this high pressure right here, this is playing a part itself in keeping Dorian south. And then that major west turn that we are looking at that could potentially put that Category 4 storm in a devastating area or devastating areas in some of the most beautiful parts of Florida. And this is what we expected from Irma 2 years ago. But that just didn't pan out. But we're close enough now in time where we have a good idea of where this thing's going to go. And it looks like the Bahamas are going to take a pretty big hit. But even after the Bahamas, I'm talking in between this place and this place, this thing drops about 10 to 15 millibars in pressure, which means its strength strengthens, and that could be the Category 4 that they have been talking about. So when I hit play here, you can clearly see this thing is trucking along right over the Bahamas, and then you see it dropped right there to about 9:59 and then rolls right up Central Florida. It rolls through a few times here so you guys can get an idea of what we're looking at. And hey, I mean, what can you say? It is what it is. That thing is not going to be moving much further away from what you're seeing right now. This thing will hit Florida, my friends. There's no guarantee that we're going to see a Category 4, but there is a guarantee that the east coast of Florida is going to get hit by a major hurricane. That is what the main issue is here, and that's what everyone should be thinking about. Not so much the wind speeds because of the size of Florida. When you have anything from a Category 3 and the possibility of a 4, you're going to want to get out of the area. And I don't like putting info like that out. I don't like scaring people. I don't want anyone to do things they don't feel they need to do. It's your choice as a human, as a citizen of the United States, to make those decisions on your own. But they don't put out state of emergency and mandatory evacuations for no reason. And I know we've had close calls before where they've put them out and nothing's really happened. But better safe than sorry. That is the best info I can give as far as the people that live in the area that is expected to be hit. Another chart here shows a basic cone of uncertainty also, which very much mimics what we just watched on that tropical tidbits model, taking it right. Basically, I mean, we could use Lake Okeechobee as a landmark, as the central area of where this storm might hit. It could come down a little more south. It might come up a little more north. Those are the things that are like detail work that we're going to be covering over the next couple days. And you can guarantee I will be here to cover this storm going forward, guys. No more of these 2 and 3 day breaks. This is a very significant situation, and I've put off everything else so I could be here for you guys so we can cover this storm. And that goes moving forward through the month of September and ongoing from there. So we have changes going on here, and we're sticking to them. So with that said, here is Ventu Sky, and yeah, this looks like this is a scary looking situation here. I have it set up on Labor Day. This is Monday, September 2nd. Right now, and you could see Port St. Lucie right here, West Palm Beach right here. Look at some of these numbers we got, guys, and we're looking, this is 10 meters off the ground, and this is lowballing it. We got 96 in there somewhere. Where was it? There it is. 96 mile an hour winds right after landfall. So if I took this back to 5 p.m., just check that out. It actually strengthens. So now the 96 mile an hour is up in the northern area. Like I said, in between, well, this one in between Palm Bay and Port St. Lucie. Again, 200 mile an hour wind field, or 200 mile radius wind field, meaning tropical storm winds could be up as far as Palm Coast and even Jacksonville, depending on exactly where this storm hits. But just look at the size of it compared to where we are looking at the east coast of Florida. Miami and southern Florida were the original targets, and now because this thing is tracking north and then going to get flattened out, we are now looking at a almost similar to a Sandy type hook. I don't know if it's going to be as dramatic as that. If you guys remember, a few years ago now, we had Hurricane Sandy come up. It was kind of just hanging out, and then boom, it just took a left-hand turn right into New Jersey. And that was that. And nobody saw that coming. So we have to keep that in mind that things may happen that we are not expecting. This is not a textbook type deal. We need to watch what's going on around this hurricane. Hurricanes do not decide where they want to go. They are influenced by outside pressures. That includes the Atlantic Ocean, that includes our jet stream, and that includes random high and low pressures even down below in the Caribbean. So the Caribbean could actually push momentum upwards, but at the same time, if we have a long and hard, strong, high pressure system slowly moving down the U.S., this thing will not move north. It's going to cross, and then once that pressure is released, then it will move up. So you'll notice when the storm hits Florida, that's when it weakens, and that's when it's more prone to be controlled by outside pressures, and that's why you saw the storm hit Florida and move up. Another bit of info I want to share with you guys is these visuals they're showing now, and all you're seeing is this thing tracking almost north of the Bahamas now, and the number 4. I mean, you're seeing this everywhere. They're not saying it's guaranteed to be a 4, but as far as the graphics go and people going on websites like this, it's convincing people that this will be a Category 4 at landfall. And then you can see, even 24 hours after landfall, it's still a Category 1 in the center of Florida. And once it's there, that's when we're going to really notice whether or not it's going to get into the Gulf or if it's going to shoot to the north. So a little bit more info right here. Hurricane Dorian is now expected to hit Florida even harder than previously thought. That's what I explained to you when I was having that conversation with Craig Setzer, promoting a wide-send state of emergency. This isn't just counties we're talking about. We're talking about a legit state of emergency. The storm is on track to make landfall early Monday. Now, that is also up for debate a little bit because Ventu Sky is a little bit off from tropical tidbits. It could be late Monday, it could be early Monday, it could be even Sunday, and it could be early Tuesday. And I know that sounds crazy and it sounds like it's all over the place, but that is how these things work. Like any sort of outside influence with these storms slowing it down by even an hour at a time, that builds up and that adds up and that changes everything. A storm hitting at night, for example, rather than hitting during the day, even though it's still going to do the same thing, at least you can see what's going on rather than being hit in the middle of the night. So these are where these little details come in, and this is where we're going to sort this stuff out over the next couple days. Now, Monday as a powerful Category 4 hurricane. Again, the mention of a Category 4, this thing is only a Cat 1 right now at 85 miles per hour. So they really are giving this thing a lot of potential to grow, and it looks that way, guys. Everything is in the right place for this to happen. Minimal wind shear, that high pressure coming down from the north, and the way this thing is tracking so far, I mean, I can't go outside of what this is saying right now until something shows me different. And not to mention a little fun fact here, if you want to call it a fun fact, in quotations, it could be the strongest direct hit to Florida's east coast since Hurricane Andrew. Where have we heard that before? That was Hurricane Michael. Once again, Michael was on the other side of the of Florida there, but Hurricane Michael was a Category 5, and that was the only Category 5 since Hurricane Andrew. But Hurricane Andrew was an East Coast storm as a Category 5, so this also has the potential to be a 5, guys. We can't throw that out the window either. So, again, I know I'm throwing a lot of info at you right now, but I'm going to break this all down into shorter segments, and we're really going to understand what's going on here, and I'm going to get back on track with keeping you guys posted on a daily basis. The last thing I want to point out right now is the current stuff going on. I know I mentioned a little bit of current information as far as where the storm is right now, but as of right now, before Florida, you can see actually Florida is going to be this stat right here, but here we go. Dorian is expected to produce the following rainfall accumulations. This does not include storm surge, guys. Storm surge is the water from the ocean being pushed in by the strength of the wind, which could be up to 10 to 15 feet. That is 1.5 stories of a building, and that is very possible. I know it sounds dramatic, but that is what these storms do. It's happened before, it will happen again, and it might happen in the next 4 or 5 days. The central Bahamas are expected 1 to 2 inches, isolated 4-inch areas. That's because they now expect this storm, at least the more powerful part of the storm, to actually arc over the Bahamas rather than trekking right through them as we were originally expecting. That's because the storm took a northern movement, and now we have the high pressure that is going to flatten it out. I can't stress that enough, guys. This storm will make a left hook. It looks like it's going north. People have been saying it's going to whip off into the ocean. It's not. It's going to make that left hook, and it's just a matter of how strong it's going to be when it hits Florida, not if. The northwestern Bahamas, 3 to 5 inches, isolated 7 inches. So you could see how the thing is getting stronger and stronger over time, dropping more and more rain. It's going to be a huge rainmaker. Coastal sections of the southeast United States, 5 to 10 inches of rain. Some spots isolated with 15 inches of rain, not to mention the storm surge. So again, we're talking, we could be seeing a foot of rain in some areas on top of a 10 to 12 to 15 foot storm surge. That is devastating. That is the type of thing that ruins areas where you can no longer live there for a long time. That is what happened to Puerto Rico. I'm not comparing this to Puerto Rico in any way, besides the fact that water damage is just as bad, if not worse, than wind damage itself. At least wind damage, things can be replaced and fixed. Flood damage, you could be looking at a section of Florida that is no longer habitable to live in for a long period of time. And we saw that with Michael. There are places that Michael hit that are no longer, you can't live there anymore unless they actually try to fix it up. I mean, we have places that got hit by Katrina that have just simply not been rebuilt. Same thing with Hurricane Harvey. So with that said, guys, I'm so happy to finally get info out to you, and the most updated info. This was as of 3 hours ago. Our next update is at 11 p.m. When we get our next recon information about this storm. And with that said, guys, I'm going to make another video about a significant earthquake that happened today right off the coast of Oregon. I was not going to include that in this video because I want to keep things separate. I don't want to throw you guys all over the place here, but main concern right now is our friends in Florida, and also we need to start thinking about states such as Gulf states, depending on where this storm's going to go, and then of course we need to keep Georgia and South Carolina in our minds here, because this storm may hit and come back out and strengthen again. This is one of those storms. It's a big one. It's the biggest one of the year. It will be, at least, and that's where we're at right now. And as I close this video out, here is the tropical tidbits idea of this storm. Again, the pressure is a little higher on tropical tidbits than expected. 971 you could see there by September 2nd. That is Labor Day. So you could see here the midnight, Labor Day morning. Like this is literally Sunday the 1st going into Monday this minute. You could see how close to Florida this storm is. So more than likely this will be a Labor Day landfall. You could see as we are 6 hours into Labor Day, we drop down to 964 pressure, and we are just starting to see those winds, tropical force winds hitting Florida. And then as we get into midday Florida, that are midday on Monday, on Labor Day, that is when we're going to see landfall at 961 millibars. I believe it will be even lower than that. So everything's lining up to put this storm in the same spot, guys, and I can't stress it enough. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to break this down into more parts, and we're going to get into the details of where this thing may hit and why it may hit certain areas and may not hit other areas. But one thing to keep in mind, and this goes to why they have the state of emergency in Florida, if this thing hits as a Category 4, you need to remember what this is right here. This is a 200 mile in diameter tropical force wind field that will be caused by a Category 4 hurricane. If this thing becomes a 5, it will be even bigger. We could be talking something like that. That covers Florida and even part of other states. This is no joke. It's a big deal. It's a lot of wind. And then if you think about the eye of the hurricane, anything 50 miles out of the hurricane is almost a destruction path. If this thing is going to be a Category 4. And I keep saying if because I will not say this will be a Category 4 until I know for sure that it will be. In my gut, it's going to be a major hurricane, but a major hurricane could be anywhere from 3 to a 5. And I don't feel right telling you guys what I think it's going to be I'd rather have facts and share those with you. And we are going on 22 minutes now, of course. That's my thing, is 20-minute videos, but it's a lot of information, and you guys deserve it. I've been gone for a while, but I'll have shorter updates so we can talk about things, and live streams so we can actually talk in person and really get the warnings out to the people that need to know. Thank you so much for your patience, guys. I really apologize for the break I took. It was much needed, and I'll explain in due time why it was needed. I went through a lot with this hacking situation, a new laptop, all sorts of stuff. And again, like I said, I didn't want to get into it, and I've already gotten into it. So anyway, I love each and every one of you. Thank you so much, and especially Caroline, thank you so much for just keeping me upbeat. That's all I got to say. You guys are great. Thank you so much. We'll be talking again in just a few hours. It's 8:02 as we speak on the East Coast, August 29th, Thursday. Thank you so much. Bye.